awaiting President Biden, who's expected to speak this hour on extreme weather as calls grow for the 25th Amendment to be invoked. That means he would be removed. Plus, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre is also set to hold her first press briefing since last week's shocking presidential debate. Those reporters better be rearing and ready with questions. But first, we begin with breaking new developments in the Trump criminal trial in New York and his fight to overturn his conviction. The Manhattan DA's office has now agreed to delay Trump's sentencing following the Supreme Court's historic ruling that granted broad immunity protections to presidents. That's right, Alvin Bragg saying he would agree to a delay. We'll see what Judge Merchan says. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany here with my co-host, Emily Compagno. Also joining us, Fox News anchor Jolie Banderas, Fox News contributor Lisa Booth, Fox News contributor and professor of medicine at NYU Langone Medical Center. Boy, do we have a lot of questions for him about the president, Dr. Mark Siegel. Well, new court filings show Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg has agreed with Trump's request to delay his July 11th criminal sentencing for up to 2 weeks so that the judge overseeing the case, that's Judge Merchan, could weigh whether the landmark Supreme Court ruling might overturn Trump's conviction altogether. We're now waiting for Judge Merchan's response. The surprise move comes as the court's decision already appears to have dealt a huge blow to special counsel Jack Smith's election interference case against the former president. For more on what the historic ruling means for Trump's case, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General, UC Berkeley law professor, and former law clerk for Justice Thomas John Yoo joins me now. Professor Yoo, boy, do we have a lot of questions. First and foremost, that Bragg letter agreeing to a potential delay, Trump would have to file his motion by July 11th, John Yoo, the prosecution by July 24th. Do you think Judge Merchan agrees?
The DA here is bowing to the inevitable, and this is a test to see if Judge Merchan really is going to do his duty, or is he really that biased against President Trump? Because this week's decision granting the president immunity, one thing that hasn't been noticed by most people is that it applies in state court. It doesn't just apply to Jack Smith's special counsel investigation. It applies to DA investigation in New York, and it applies to Fani Willis's prosecution in Georgia. And so all of these cases have to go back now and say and look at, was President Trump's conduct, which he's being prosecuted for, involve his official acts or his non-official acts? And even if Bragg were to claim that all the activity was involved with President Trump's non-official acts, he still has to scrutinize and clear out anything in the case that made reference to or used President Trump's conduct while president in his official capacity to make sure it didn't infect his trial. So this should delay, unless these guys are trying to really railroad President Trump, this should delay at least and reopen the trial court. And if the decision, if it doesn't, this is just another issue that President Trump could easily win on appeal in that New York City case.
So let's be very clear with viewers what's going on. The Trump team filed a motion in this case earlier where they said, hey, Judge Merchan, some of this evidence that is being put forward bears on my presidential immunity, my official acts, it should not be included. Judge Merchan said you filed that motion too late, so it was never ruled upon. So Bragg here, what is stunning to me is his agree to the delay. You said he's bowing to the inevitable. Is this an admission from a highly motivated anti-Trump prosecutor that Trump has a strong argument here?
Yes, and he has to, because it's not just Trump that has a strong argument. Bragg has to obey the Supreme Court's decision on Monday. And in order to do that, he has to show that he's obeying the rule of law. If he and Judge Merchan just run railroad roughshod over the Supreme Court's demand that they all look at whether President Trump has immunity in this, then they're going to be begging to be reversed on appeal. So it's inevitable. It's either going to take place here or it's going to take place at the Court of Appeals or even maybe ultimately at the U.S. Supreme Court. But this question has to be answered. So at the very least, if Bragg is smart, if Merchan is smart, they should do it now.
So that's the case in New York. But I want to move quickly to Jeffrey Toobin, who had this prediction on the January 6th case.
It's a big, big victory for Donald Trump. It means that the January 6th case, the case before Judge Chutkan in the District of Columbia, is at a minimum delayed until after the election, but I think will never be tried.
Will the J6 case never be tried?
I agree with Jeff on this one. In fact, if President Biden and Attorney General Garland were to do the right thing, they should order the special counsel to drop this case now. Because it's not just the immunity case. The immunity case plus last week decisions saying that you can't charge a January 6th protesters or rioters or whatever you want to call them with obstruction and tampering with evidence. The heart of this Smith prosecution has been ripped out. And then when you add on the immunity question, which is going to require the lower court to have to go through again, just like what Judge Merchan should do, and look at fact by fact, claim by claim, whether the president was acting in his official capacity or his unofficial capacity. I don't see how a district judge here, along with a special counsel, can say they're obeying the Supreme Court unless they take their time, give President Trump the opportunity to make his arguments. I don't see how this gets done by the election either.
Professor Yoo, that is big news. Thank you so much for your expertise.
Thank you, Kaylee.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.